Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 9 of Anime Sub. I'm, of course, your host, Tyler, and today we are here to discuss 2 anime. One that I liked, and one that I didn't like at all. And you'll have to watch the episode to figure out which one's which. But I'm going to spoil it pretty quickly, because I'm going to first talk about Wagamama High Spec. This anime, I'm going to give a little preamble here for how this anime came into my view. Being quite honest, this was not an anime that I sought out. And I don't think this is an anime that anyone's going to seek out, quite frankly. The site that I watch my anime on, and I'm not going to name names here because you're not getting a free endorsement from me, you fuck. Send me a check if you want me to talk about your service on here. It has this button that I can press where it'll just randomly take me to a page, and I'll just randomly see an anime. There's no gearing it towards my expectations. It has no algorithm where it's trying to find something that I like or anything like that. It just shows me a random anime. And I did that, and I came across Wagamama High Spec. I saw that it was 12 episodes and thought, well, that is a full anime season. Then I saw that the episodes were relatively short, about 2 minutes, and honestly, probably not even that. The episodes would say 3 minutes long. The credits start rolling after about 2 minutes. So it's actually a really short anime. Kind of reminiscent of Senyu, so I said, why not? I'll check this out. I'll see if it's worth watching. Why not? So I dived into Wagamama High Spec, not knowing the context behind this is that this entire show is an advertisement for a visual novel of the same name. And the premise here is that what do the lead girls in this kind of harem visual novel do when the protagonist is away? And to me, that sounds like kind of an interesting idea. Like, what do the side characters do while the protagonist is not in the scene at all, right? That sounds kind of interesting to me as a concept. So, going into this, I read up a little bit just to make sure that I kind of knew what I was getting into. And I had kind of an idea and thought that the concept sounded kind of interesting, so I decided to check this anime out. That was a horrible mistake. This is not, even if I was to remove the fact that it's an advertisement, if I was to look past that and to accept that, even then, this is still just not even a good anime. It's not a good anime by any standard, really. The animation here is pretty lackadaisical. There's one episode of this show where I feel like the animators really got to have a lot of fun, and then it immediately goes back to being just rudimentary. Here's, some moving PNGs for the most part. It's not a super well-animated show. It's not, there's just nothing about this show that's particularly good. It doesn't do anything well. It has that one episode. There's an episode where they're going to make a movie. Each episode of this anime is kind of detached from the last one. There's no real sequential nature in this show. Like, the narrative in the last episode does not matter in the new episode, right? Which I'm fine with. I'm okay with that. I don't need my narratives to all be Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. Like, I don't need a through line for the entire show if it's going to be fun. But unfortunately, I feel like this show cuts its knees off a lot. Or cuts itself off at the knee a lot. Throughout the show, there's one episode of this show where they kind of play around with the idea of it being a horror for a second. This girl reads a horror manga. She starts walking around the school and spooky stuff starts happening in front of her. But I feel like they kind of melt the expectation because they immediately show us the real world explanation for why the spooky thing happened right after they show us the spooky thing. I think it would have worked better if we didn't find out that all of the spooky happenings were caused by real world things until the end of the episode. That's how you posit this joke. You don't set up something scary and then immediately reveal it's a joke right after. You set up something as scary, let us think it's scary for the time being, and then reveal at the end of the episode that none of the scary things that happened were actually scary things. That's a fun way to play around with that concept. That episode was fun. I like the episode with the cat. There's an episode with a cat in this show that, as a new cat owner, I'm also like, oh, okay, relatable content. I get it. I wish that any of the rest of the show is like every other episode. You could just throw it away. You can just forget about it. Nothing interesting happens. Nothing good happens. The characters kind of switch archetypes in between episodes. In the first episode of the show, there's this girl who's like, she's being very reserved and it comes off like she resents any kind of promiscuity. But in the very next episode, she's asked to like make out with one of her classmates, and she just automatically goes for it without a second thought. So there's no, again, I don't mind the fact that that there's not going to be a through line narrative to the show, but I would prefer if the characters could at least remain consistent throughout the show. I would like it if the characters could at least, I don't know, have identifiable traits and not just kind of swap them episode to episode. I don't know. This entire show just feels like it is just an advertisement for a game, but I can't see how watching this show would make me want to pursue the visual novel, because none of the characters have consistent archetypes. None of the characters are super interesting. The most interesting character in the show, unfortunately, is going to be the sister of the protag. The sister of the protag is the most interesting character out of all the girls, and I don't want that route. I don't want to have to walk that route in the visual novel because you didn't flesh out any of these other characters. None of these other characters have traits that make them identifiable, and that's important for a visual novel, I feel. I'm not a huge visual novel Andy today, I'll be honest, but I was a big visual novel Andy in college. I played a lot of visual novels back in the day, and this seems like one that I might have picked up at some point if it came into my sphere for whatever reason. But I just feel like none of the girls in this show have any real personality, and they kind of swap them throughout the show, and none of them really stick with me. And this show, it's trying to be funny. I get that it's comedy. It's trying to be funny. None of the jokes are particularly good. None of the characters are particularly good. The animation's not particularly good, aside from that one episode where I really feel like they went in and tried to do something cool. And I wish they would do stuff like that more often. That's what I liked about Senyu. Senyu would pretty randomly have great animation, and then would also cut it back and be like, oh, nope, we're on a budget again. And that was a fun joke. Wagamama High Spec doesn't do anything like that. They run that joke for one episode, and then they never do it again, which is fine. You can have your one episode joke, but the other jokes in the rest of the episodes need to also be good. I can only really tell you about 4 of these episodes off the top of my head. Like I said, the cat one, the one where they make a movie, the horror one, and then I remember the last episode just because it's the last episode, and the last episode is just, it lets you know what kind of visual novel this is, and it lets you know what kind of people are going to be playing this visual novel. And if you're not one of those people, this last episode is not going to stick with you. Or it's going to stick with you in the way that it sticks with me, in that I don't like it. I don't find it appealing. I don't find it funny. I just watch it and I go, okay, we're doing this bit now. Cool, I guess. So, Wagamama High Spec, I can't even really say that it disappointed me, because I had no expectations. I've never played the visual novel. And after watching this, I don't want to play the visual novel. I have no interest in playing the visual novel, which is a shame, since this is supposed to serve as an advertisement for the visual novel of the same name. That said, I don't really know what I would do to make a lot of this better. I would have completely rewritten these up. I would have rewritten this entire season. I don't know what I could do to make it better in its current form. If we're going to stick with the episodes that we have in place, there's not a lot that we can do to make these jokes really work, in my opinion. I would make the characters more consistent across the episodes, because I think that would make it more fun. It would make it more easy for me to get attached to the different characters in this show if they had through-line, consistent personalities. But I don't think this show is really interested in that. I think this show is just more interested in just showing you cute girls doing cute things, the subgenre of anime. I think if you want something like this show, I'd recommend Yuru Camp. I would recommend Pride of Orange, which I'm currently watching. I'm not even a huge fan of Pride of Orange, but it does what this show tries to do a lot better. So I would recommend watching pretty much anything else, because this show, it meanders a lot. It is super short. That is the one thing I'll give it. I was watching this I watched this entire thing in one night, because it is just two-minute episodes. And that's very easy to sit through. It's very easy to get through. And I didn't have a huge problem with the length. I'm glad that it was as short as it was, because this is a demonstrable waste of your fucking time, if we're being honest. If you're not like a huge fan of the anime, this is a huge fan of the visual novel. This is a huge waste of your time, and you feel it. You feel it as the episodes go by. You're like, okay, and you get what the joke is by the very start of the episode. That's the other thing. They're super quick, but you immediately know what the joke is. I talk about the horror episode a lot. That's because I'm a big horror fan. I like horror anime. I like horror shows. I like horror movies. I enjoy horror stuff. I'm a big horror fan. So when we had a horror episode set up, I was, oh, hell yeah. Let's fucking do it. But then it just, like I said, the show constantly cuts its own legs off throughout. It'll have a cool idea set up. There's another episode where one of the girls, dresses up and pretends to be a robot for an episode. And that one doesn't go as far as I want it to with the concept. And it also there are aspects of it that happen again that once again contradict previous episodes. So again, this whole thing, if you're interested in the visual novel, maybe you'll want to check this out. But I can't even see how, if you liked the visual novel, what this show would give you that the visual novel hasn't already given you. Because the protagonist is gone. You're gone for this entire show. The protagonist shows up very briefly towards the end of the show. And even then, they never show him because the protagonist is supposed to be, a self-insert of sorts. So they can't show the protagonist because that kills the idea that he's a self-insert. If they put the protagonist in there and he's some brown-eyed, black-haired, voiced by fucking Bryce Papenbrook motherfucker, he loses any kind of projectability for a lot of people. I wouldn't project myself onto that character because he doesn't look like me, So, I don't know. The visual novels, that's a whole other discussion to get into. The whole other discussion to get into here is the self-insert character, but this show doesn't handle it well because the character comes back briefly, he's like, yo, I'm the character. He doesn't speak ever. He shows up, he's like, I'm the character, and they're like, could you go get us this food for us? And then the protagonist is fucking gone. All again, And the whole appeal of this for me was the idea that I was going to get to see what the side characters are doing when the protagonist isn't around, but they don't do anything interesting. They don't do anything that keeps me here. I don't know. This show didn't work for me. If you're a fan of the visual novel, let me know. Does this show work for you? Does this show play into the strengths of the characters? Does this appeal to you as someone who enjoyed the visual novel for Wagamama High Spec? It's got a really fun title. I like saying the title. That's a compliment I can give it. It's got a really fun title. I like saying the title sometimes. Wagamama High Spec. It's catchy. I dislike whenever they're like Waga High, or I think that's what they shortened to. They shorten the title to the commercial break points. Wagamama High Spec is such a catchy title. Just say the whole thing. Wagamama High Spec, It's like if One Piece was like OP, I don't know. Full Metal, if they change it to FMA. Or just Full Metal, Like, come on. Say the whole title. Let's be fucking for real. Anyway. Now, it's time for us to get into our other show of the day. And if you can guess, if you're still on the fence, which animated Tyler liked that they're talking about today, you can't figure it out from how I talked about Wagamama High Spec. We are talking about Kaiju No.8. This show rocks. I had a great time watching Kaiju No.8. This was another one that Star brought to me. This is another Star recommendation. Star showed me this one. I had no inkling about this show. I had no idea about what this was. I know that season 2 is out right now. I have not seen season 2. I've watched season 1. So we're going to be discussing season 1 here, just so we're all clear. I really enjoyed Kaiju No.8. This was super fun, really engaging. I love the lead character. I think he's a lot of fun. Kafka, I want to say. Kafka is his name, because I think of the writer every time I say his name. Kafka's really good here. I think that this is one of the best Shounen anime I've seen recently. I understand that this got a lot of hype when it came out, and I'm hyping it up now as like a great Shounen anime, but I stand by that. I think this is a really good show. I think it's got great animation. The music's really fun. The fight scenes look super cool. I love the idea of this guy kind of getting infected by the alien force that's invading them. And now that I've seen Evangelion, I can kind of see some parallels between this show and Evangelion a lot more. Not in the sense that, like, in Evangelion, obviously they're using mechs, but here they're being attacked by kaijus, which is very similar to the angels from Evangelion. And so the idea of an Eva infecting someone and then them being able to use that as a power, it's super interesting. It's got a cool premise. I like the world building. I like the idea of I think that my favorite part of this is when it started off and there was this entire occupation revolving around this group of people who have to clean up the fucking mess that kaijus leave behind. I think that's really fun. I think that's really endearing. I almost wish we spent more time on the guys who clean up the kaijus, but I understand why we kind of, divulge from that. Because Kafka eventually walks away from that career field and starts becoming, I can't remember what they're called in this world. I want to say like enforcers or something, kaiju hunters. I don't remember what the fuck they're called. But I really enjoy it. I think that it plays around with its concepts in an interesting way. And I think that once they find out that he is part kaiju, I think everything after that is just, it's peak. I love it. I had a great time watching this show. I think it's really, really well done. Great animation. That's one thing that stands out, especially after discussing Wagamama High Spec and kind of how dog shit abysmal the animation is there. The animation in Kaiju No. 8 is just, it's stellar. It's super impressive. It's fun to watch. It's engaging. Got all the flashing lights that that you need to keep my attention, honestly. So I really enjoyed this. I think the comedy works well. I like the dynamic between Kafka and his little cohort. Is it Hoshina? Is Hoshina his buddy? Or am I mixing? I'm mixing him up with someone else, I think. I think Ichikawa is his friend. I can't remember. I think Ichikawa is his friend. I believe so. I distinctly remember the name Ichikawa being called out. I think Hoshina is, he's one of the, one of the higher ups in the organization that they end up joining. I also like the dynamic between Kafka and Mina. I think that's really fun. I had a great time watching this anime. I'm excited to check out season 2. I need to check out season 2. This kind of preamble here is just me, or this can serve as a preamble to me checking out season 2 eventually, because I do think that this is a really fire show. I think it's really, really strong. I think it's a great shonen. I don't remember exactly when this came. I don't know if this came out at the same time as Hell's Paradise. After doing some on-the-fly research here, I've actually discovered that Hell's Paradise and Kaiju No. 8 were kind of running at the same time, and honestly, Kaiju No. 8 is the stronger anime out of the two. I did not like Hell's Paradise. I thought Hell's Paradise was mid. Kaiju No. 8, I think, is definitely the stronger anime and one that I enjoy a lot more. So I have spent this entire season ragging on Hell's Paradise. I just need to do an episode on it. I need to do an episode on Hell's Paradise. I'll do it eventually. I'll get to it. That said, though, Kaiju No. 8, really, really strong shonen. Credible premise. Manages to run well with its premise as well. I look forward to seeing what they do in season 2. I had a lot of fun with this. I'm someone who just enjoys kaiju as a concept. I enjoy monsters. I think they're super cool. Anytime monsters show up in a thing, I'm really, really excited. So when they show up in this, I have fun. And I like the fact that, again, Kafka, whatever's going on with him, truly, he is part kaiju now. And I think that the design of the kaiju that he turns into looks super cool as well. I just think all the character designs, the monster designs, everything aesthetically speaking here looks good. The music works when it needs to. The action's really fun to watch. There's just no real downsides to this show for me. I had a lot of fun watching it. I think it's stellar. Probably going to be, I'm not going to say anime of the season because it came out in 2023, but maybe the new season. I don't know. We got to check out the new season. Have you checked out the new season of Kaiju No. 8? What did you think of it? Are you going to check out Wagamama High Spec after listening to me rant about it for like 10 minutes? Who knows? I liked Kaiju No. 8. Do I recommend Kaiju No. 8? Absolutely. Without a doubt in my mind, I really have no reason to tell you not to watch this. I think this is an anime that really anyone can get into. That's kind of the plus of Shounen. Shonen's very easy for, I think, anyone to watch or be recommended. Shounen kind of as an anime form, I think, is the most mainstream form of anime. So it's very easy for me to recommend, yes, watch Kaiju No. 8. I think it's incredibly well done. In case it wasn't clear earlier, I don't recommend Wagamama High Spec. It's really, really bad. Watch literally anything else in the same genre. But Kaiju No. 8 was really fire. I enjoyed that one a lot. I think you should check it out. Give it a chance if you haven't. You know, why not? Why not check out Kaiju No. 8? What are you watching instead? Sentenced to be a Hero? I'm also watching that. I think that's my show of the season right there. Sentenced to be a Hero. I think it's fire, actually. We're here talking about Kaiju No. 8. So yeah, I've already kind of given my overall review. I loved the show. Had a blast with it. Thought it was super fun. I was super invested and really worried about Kafka at different points. I was worried about his little buddy Ichikawa too. You know, it was Ichikawa. I was worried about his little buddy Ichikawa throughout the show too. So you should definitely check this show out. I think it's really fire. I think it's worth checking out. I really don't have much more to say on that. On that topic though, what are you watching this season? We're getting towards the end of, this season of Anime Sub, so I'm going to be taking a break after episode 10. You won't hear from me for a little while. I might watch Kaiju No. 8 Season 2 during that time. Did you like Kaiju No. 8 Season 2? I will say the one thing that irks me about this title is having to say number 8 at the end of it instead of just calling it Kaiju or something. I feel compelled to go Kaiju No. 8 every time I say it, and I find myself kind of cutting myself off every time I do. But it's Kaiju No. 8. Check out Kaiju No. 8. This is a Kaiju No. 8 podcast now. Not really. You should check out Kaiju No. 8. It's a really, really good show. Yeah, let me know what you've been watching this season. Are there any shows that I need to keep an eye out for? Are you watching Sentenced to be a Hero, for example? I've also been watching Tune Into the Midnight Heart, which I think is ramping up to be a pretty good romance anime. So check that one out as well. Let me know what you're watching. Let me know if you've started the next season of Kaiju No.8. I'd be really curious to see how people are feeling about it so far. I know that I loved the first season, and I can't wait to watch the next one, so let me know what you thought of it. With that being said, though, we will come to the end of this episode of Anime Sub. What did you think of Kaiju No.8? Don't watch Wagamama High Spec. Thank you so much for tuning into this show, and I will see you all next time when I talk about more anime. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everybody. See ya.